There are 613 commandments in the Torah. This number corresponds to the 365 days of the year that we should refrain from transgression, plus the 248 parts of our bodies with which we should do good deeds. That makes up 613 do's and don'ts of the Torah. Yet this week is the mother lode. This week we receive the 10 commandments. Unlike other commandments that are doled out sporadically and without much ceremony or pomp, the 10 commandments, the Aseret HaDibrot, are delivered with awe-inspiring flair and splendor. The entire nation of our ancestors purify themselves and gather together at the base of Mount Sinai, 600,000 in number. The wilderness equivalent of a velvet rope is stretched across the front of the crowd, and fire and smoke descend from heaven, gathering together at the mountaintop. And the air is filled with the sound of blaring trumpets. The Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 commandments, are delivered directly to all of the souls gathered at Sinai. And as the Midrash tells us, even to those of us who were not yet born, even those who would come to convert, even the souls now gathered together over Zoom and live streaming, right now, we all were present to hear the great revelation. I am Adonai, your God. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not swear falsely by the name of Adonai. Remember Shabbat and keep it holy. Honor your father and mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. You shall not covet anything that is your neighbor's. You got to admit, it's a pretty good list. There is one small problem, though. The 10th commandment is different from the others. The others are all about actions and beliefs, but you shall not covet is neither. It's a feeling. The command, don't be jealous, would be like a command, don't be angry or don't be sad. Have any of you ever tried to say that to someone? Don't be angry or don't be sad. Maybe it sounded more like, don't be angry, but, or perhaps, don't be sad, just get over it. Have you ever had someone say that to you? It doesn't work so well. Emotions are our natural human, God-given reactions to situations that we face in life. Telling someone not to be angry or not to feel bad usually makes them feel even worse. We are in control of our actions and perhaps with practice and discipline, even our thoughts. But we cannot control the emotions that we feel. We feel what we feel. And when we try to suppress or circumvent our feelings, they often come out in other ways. So, what are we to make of this commandment, you shall not covet anything that is your neighbor's? Some of the classical Torah commentators offer a simple solution. Covet is not about desiring your neighbor's spouse or home, but rather it's about the actions you take based on that feeling. That makes a bit more sense. However, one of the classical commentators, Chizkuni, points out that it is, in fact, redundant. The 10 commandments already prohibit adultery and theft. He suggests that the real prohibition is against scheming to get something that is not yours. In other words, attempted adultery is just as much of a crime in the eyes of God. But That doesn't seem quite right either. If that's what God meant, why wouldn't the Torah just state it simply? The other commandments are clear. You shall not murder. You shall not steal. Why would this one allude to an emotion, a desire of the human heart, if that isn't what it really means? Well, another great rabbinic commentator, Abraham ibn Ezra, raises exactly that objection. He claims that the Torah really does mean that we should not allow ourselves to even think about desiring something that belongs to someone else. He claims that we have to train ourselves to appreciate that even if someone else has more money or nicer things, that is only because it is God's will. Since only God decides who is rich or poor, we should be grateful for our lot and not worry about what others have. To be honest, that doesn't sit right with me either. Although I do believe that God plays a role in our prosperity, I don't think that our lives are predetermined, and I don't believe that it is righteous or just to tell someone who's poor or experiencing hard times that it is God's will and they should just accept it. I don't think that God works like that, and I certainly don't think we should either. One theory is a little bit better. It comes from Rabbeinu Bachya. He suggests that this 10th commandment is like a fence, a boundary around the first 10 commandments to help prevent us from coming close to transgression. After all, he argues, if a person begins to covet their neighbor's possessions, then they could become fixated. That obsession could drive someone to steal, to cheat, or even kill, abandon their parents, and turn against God. I mean, it's a little bit dark, but we see it on the evening news and in true crime dramas every night. Unchecked desire can lead to the unthinkable. Jealous lovers and greedy hucksters are carted off in handcuffs after being brought in for heinous crimes. Yet there is one more way to understand the commandment, thou shalt not covet. But there are two important things you have to know about the Hebrew. The first is that the Aseret HaDibrot, what we usually translate as 10 commandments, actually means the 10 statements. 10 commandments would be Aseret HaMitzvot, the 10 mitzvahs. So perhaps this is not actually a commandment at all. Now, the second thing that you need to know about Hebrew is that the command form of a verb, the thou shalt, is identical to the future form, you will. An 18th century Hasidic rabbi known as the Maggid of Zlotkov noticed this and uncovered a radical new interpretation of this 10th commandment. You will not covet isn't a command, but a promise of reward for righteous conduct. It could be read, if you honor God, if you distance yourself from any wrongdoing, if you lead a righteous life, then you will be completely satisfied with what you have. You will feel like the richest and luckiest person in the world. You will not have to worry or fear the actions of others. You will not have to ever feel insecure because you'll be happy to share the blessings that you have. You will not be jealous of others. Because you will know that you have all you need. The alternative is always feeling incomplete, always wanting more, feeling like there's a hole inside of you that can never be filled. Judaism gives us the answer to that feeling. We live in a world in which we increasingly find ourselves looking over our shoulder, more often than not at a screen of a device, and comparing ourselves to others. It's nothing new, but it's amplified by technology. Studies show that viewing the world through social media can be detrimental to our mood and well being, causing anxiety, envy, poor self image, a sense of isolation, while triggering our need for socialization and releasing addictive endorphins as though we really were socializing. That's why it feels so good to scroll through social media, but it evaporates quickly. We're often made to feel that we are not good enough, that we are not as good as others. With or without social media, we desperately sometimes want to have a part of what others have. However, it is possible to avoid this. It's possible to use social media to actually improve one's well being. When we connect to individuals directly through messaging or sharing common real world interests, studies show that we tend not to compare ourselves to others in the same way and not suffer from the same detriments. We can also use social media to improve the lives of others, not through attachment to huge cultural movements, which often serve to frame good against evil and eliminate the nuance, the personal, and the understanding, but rather by connecting with people in our own community and learning about their lives. We can build and improve the lives around us as well as our own. If you are devoted to your own thoughtful self development, to building a better world, to protecting the vulnerable, you will not have time to worry about what others have that you don't. You will be spending 365 days a year doing mitzvot with all 248 parts of your body, from your little toe to your heart to your hands. The promise of the Aseret HaDibrot will come true. You will not covet your neighbor's home or spouse. You will not covet your neighbor's accolades or wealth, their Instagram workout, or their celebrity quotes. You will not covet anything that is your neighbor's. That is the promise of the 10th commandment. Shabbat Shalom.